So why was Amaterasu so useless, right? Amaterasu was, Itachi's ability to summon black flames. Effectively, it's also classified as a Fuinjutsu, a sealing jutsu. He does a seal in his Mangekyo, and thus black flames, wherever his focal point is, spawn. And these black flames cannot be distinguished for X amount of period of time, right? So, at a certain point, though, it feels like it just kind of becomes useless. And this is, I guess, a dissertation on why was it useless. And I'm very interested to see another person's perspective on it, because I have my own as someone who theory crafts Naruto consistently. Like, I played the CCG for a number of years. It's still one of my favorite card games. That being said, I'm very curious on another viewpoint onto this.
Amaterasu was introduced as a mysterious but powerful jutsu. The first time we see its power on display isn't really us seeing it, just adding to the mystery. Kisame and Itachi are trapped in Jiraiya's toad mouth, and Itachi uses it to blow up the toad mouth and wall. But after reading this, I was looking at Jiraiya's dialogue about it, how he had never seen it before, and that Itachi was just so strong for being able to break out of the toad mouth.
Yeah.
With it clearly indicating that he had just underestimated him. What did Amaterasu actually do?
We didn't know until part 2.
For hyped up so much, even in the data books, it doesn't appear a lot in the story, and when it does appear, the display is, less than desirable, I'll say that. So today I'm going to go through every interaction where the Amaterasu was used and determine if this jutsu is even worth all the hype it received.
It is.
Before getting into that though, if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it.
So before getting into this, let's also take into account that stuff like Kamui, right? How Obito's Kamui at the end of the day was just kind of like, oh, it's just Kamui, it's whatever. Like, Madara trumped it. It was kind of effective against Kaguya, but it was kind of an ability that was there. Let's put this into perspective that, they're literally fighting the S tier of the verse, right? Like, everyone Amaterasu's being used against, it's literally the Ten Tails, right? Madara, it's literally Madara. Like, Sasuke, Naruto, literally the main characters, right? So, against your average, everyday Jonin, rank and file, ninja going on missions and stuff, Amaterasu is, A tier ability that can murk Jonin, straight up. When you go against Kage, when you go against plot points like Madara, yeah, it's gonna feel like it's lesser, absolutely. So I think that that is something to consider at the very least. How it's like in Boruto, right? For example, everyone has chakra and ninjutsu absorption, right? Because it's effective, and that is effectively the quote unquote meta, and you're fighting at the S tier Otsutsuki Kage pinnacle of the verse, right? You're not an average Jonin, you're not an average Chunin, you're the S tier of the verse. And if you're the S tier of the verse, you're fighting with the big boys, the meta. And so yeah, stuff like, Amaterasu is going to seem lesser. Chakra absorption is going to nullify pretty much everything because it's dumb as fuck. It's efficient. It does what it does.
As it helps my channel out a ton. Before we get started talking about the interactions with Amaterasu in the manga, let's talk about the jutsu itself, since it receives a fair bit of hype from both the characters in the manga
because it's
and
good.
The data book. But I'll read the data book explanation first, just so we can get a little baseline for the jutsu.
Explaining in Halo power levels.
Turn to ash, a black world-destroying conflagration that scorches all.
Marines can still gank jackals, but the moment they're fighting the Arbiter, right? The Arbiter in chief, suddenly Marines look a lot weird, a lot less powerful.
Jutsu. But there is a legendary jutsu unknown outside the clan. This is the Amaterasu. The appearance of these flames are jet black. The high temperature is like the sun, and when
I personally have a theory that they're not actually. Sure, it is the peak of Katon fire style. However, because the Uchiha descends to the Sage of Six Paths, I have a theory. And this is back. I'll have to do a video on it at some point to actually give the whole dissertation. But it's in fact yin yang release, and the black flames are not actually flames. They're just, like the Gododama, how they're made out of the black orbs, right? Flames are made out of similar Six Paths chakra material, and they act like fire.
One time touching it is the last. It is said that it is named after the goddess of the sun.
Right.
It continues to burn for 7 days and 7 nights. However, the Mangekyo Sharingan is necessary to activate this jutsu, and for this reason, there are not many who have learned this jutsu. Therefore, the details of this jutsu are yet unrevealed. The black flames that only the owner of the Mangekyo Sharingan can control are even able to instantly break through the side of a rock toad who breathes fire.
Yeah.
Jiraiya, who has mastered many jutsu, did not know of the existence of Amaterasu. What he
Which
does
is wild that
understand
Jiraiya
is
didn't.
the power
Jiraiya
of the
is
suspicious
smart.
conflagration. If you don't know what conflagration means, I didn't when I originally read this. It basically just means great fire. The passage is basically saying Jiraiya, despite not knowing how the jutsu works, understand how powerful it is, which is probably because of Itachi destroying the giant toadmouth, considering Jiraiya didn't get hit with the attack himself. As I'm sure everyone knows, this jutsu was eventually inherited / awakened by Sasuke, and it pairs with his other ability, the Kagetsuchi, which lets him bend and shape the flames of Amaterasu.
Shape it, yeah.
Since Sasuke and Itachi have it, and Sasuke's power gradually grows, we'll be assuming the Amaterasu grows with it, since it just runs off of his chakra.
Yeah.
So to be clear on what that means, Sasuke's Amaterasu is Sasuke's and Itachi's is Itachi's. So we'll be splitting them up into two different sections.
There's a theory that it's
Itachi,
passed down
he is
between
not only the
Uchiha
shortest,
members.
but he introduced the jutsu to us initially. I already talked about Itachi's first use of this enough in this video already. That being him escaping Jiraiya, and really no more can be said about it that's like relevant. I mean, yeah, like Naruto tried to touch it and Jiraiya told him no, but that's not really anything. The second time Itachi used this jutsu does not come until his fight with Sasuke, and I'm
right,
not
it's part
joking.
2, Shippuden.
I for some reason thought that he had used it at points between these two times, but apparently I was just wrong. Now, the big takeaway from this fight is Itachi's chakra consumption improvement on it, because after running away from Jiraiya, he mentions how, or he seems to mention that the Amaterasu was the greater chakra cost out of all the jutsu he had used that day.
Yeah,
he says not only the Tsukuyomi, but I was forced to use the Amaterasu as well. Seeming
especially
like
with Itachi having a chronic illness,
jutsu, at least in terms of chakra cost there. But like I said, yeah, the big takeaway from the Sasuke versus Itachi fight is the fact that he improved the chakra consumption on it greatly. He can shoot at least 4 of them while already being fatigued. And he also has pretty good accuracy with it, considering Obito says he used Amaterasu on Sasuke to burn off the wing that was sitting on his shoulder, the last one left by Orochimaru. And that was Itachi's target, and he completely burned that off without harming the rest of Sasuke. We also get to see just how much hotter it is than normal.
Hold up, let me read the panel. Missing. He wanted to free you of the curse mark, which mark causing you to lose when you look close to him, waking your Mangekyo Sharingan, everything that occurred. So that's not how it came across though. So the reason so Itachi had to push Sasuke to its limit because the curse mark would activate. Orochimaru would try to take over Sasuke's body. Thus Orochimaru got his 8-headed serpent form, right? Came out as because chakra laying dormant, Sasuke was suppressing it with his own, but since Sasuke has no chakra, the only chakra left is Orochimaru's. Bam, Orochimaru pops out. And that's when Itachi sealed away. It didn't have anything to do with the Amaterasu. It was the Tosca blade that actually sealed Orochimaru, and everything his chakra was touching, and then disconnecting from Sasuke is your plot giving is that's how he didn't get sucked in. So like it didn't have anything to do with the Amaterasu though. Like I would have to have a little more citation on him wanting to burn off the curse mark, because that's not how that works. The curse mark effectively just lets them passively use a modification of Sage Mode, effectively, because it's from Jugo. It's derivative of Jugo and Jugo's clan, who passively absorb Save Chakra, Senjutsu, I'll use Senjutsu there, but like, and that's why they were prone to fits of rage and stuff, because they were just passively just getting amped. They were effectively passively drinking Red Bulls without actively drinking Red Bulls. So like, I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'd have to have more citation on that.
Fire here. Sasuke is literally overpowering Itachi's fireball, and Itachi is nerfed here. He's greatly fatigued, and he's clearly holding back.
It's good thought.
But the data book does say that Sasuke
is
just clearly pumping more chakra into his fire than Itachi is, and I don't think Sasuke having more chakra than Itachi, especially in curse mark stage, is really too crazy. Even though Itachi is just overall stronger than Sasuke, but that's neither here nor there. You don't have to agree with that or disagree with that. What's important is the Amaterasu burns Sasuke's fire completely away.
Right.
He literally just
suffocated
takes his fire completely out of the fight. And it spreads wildly. Like, it spreads all around the Uchiha hideout just off of the few shots Itachi missed on Sasuke. Funnily enough, though, it also sits on top of trees. Though, in the same scene, the Konoha 11 make it seem like they can't just run through it. So I have like a little head canon to like explain this away, and you can just tell me if you agree with it or not. So the mechanic would be, maybe the Amaterasu knows what its target is and it won't burn anything else unless it's hitting its target. No. Meaning maybe the Konoha 11 moving it out of the way was just a precaution rather than needed to happen.
Yeah, it was a precaution.
That's just pure conjecture. It's just a theory.
Because it's still really fire, quote unquote. It's still going to give off heat. It could, a branch could still fall and hit you with that's on fire.
Fire style should just burn those trees away, especially something that's supposed to be as hot as Amaterasu.
It's going to take it a second to burn it through. The next thing
is Itachi seals Amaterasu in Sasuke's eye.
Go take a flamethrower to an oak tree. Okay, like maybe don't do that, but let's hypothesize this, right? If you take a flamethrower, like an actual, like, you know, even like a World War II flamethrower, right, and you try to burn an oak tree, it's not gonna burn down immediately. It's gonna take time for it to burn. It's gonna take time for it to char. Like, I get where he's going with that, but I disagree with it on principle.
And uses it to hit Obito. So there are basically two separate things here that I want to touch on individually. So this is a new mechanic. We knew Itachi could use sealing jutsu because he helps Pain and everyone else in the Akatsuki seal the Biju inside of the Ghetto statue. But this is different. He literally seals his Mangekyo Sharingan.
It's just there
in Sasuke while almost dead.
Kagetsuchi, if anything, is Sasuke's ability to shape it at will.
It would be different if only the Amaterasu was in Sasuke's eye, but it seemed like his entire eye was there for at least a second anyway. We know Sasuke obviously didn't keep that.
It's still his eye, but it's Itachi's chakra forming in his eye.
He hit Obito with it. And whether you think Obito used Izanagi or Kamui to escape, it doesn't really matter since it's basically the same in the end. A useless attack. Obito got away from it. I'll say it gives Itachi some more credit if Obito used Izanagi, as it would have cost him an eye. And we know Obito has a wall of Sharingan, so it's not out of the question that he used it and just got a new eye, which would be the one.
It's actually kind of wild Danzo didn't get resurrected by
Conan, but
Edo
yeah,
Tensei.
we kind of can't prove it. I'm just getting at the idea that regardless of whatever one it is, Obito made the Amaterasu useless. That Amaterasu attack ended up being useless in the end.
Okay, you're using an A tier ability against an S tier opponent.
Is when he's summoned as an Edo and he burns the animal paths. Now, this is to be noted. He also burns Nagato.
I know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to talk about Nagato's Shinra Tenseiing it of it, which is a valid interaction.
But the summons disappear, and as far as I'm aware, we don't ever see those summons again. We don't ever see the dog again, and we don't ever see the bird again. But to be fair to both of those summons, no one who summons the animal path animals ever appears again. Madara and Obito supposedly can do
even
it,
if you use
but they
propane,
never
right?
appear
like,
in order
it's going to take time for the tree to burn down.
What I mean, to say that those animals died rather than just were sent off to the other summon dimension or whatever. Since I think it is implied somewhere that the animal path summons are immortal, and I don't know where that scan is. I've just heard of it before. I don't want to say it's completely wrong.
Yeah, I would need citation on that.
I'm just saying.
That's a bold claim to make.
To be fair, we don't see those animals again.
The dog is at the very least physically immortal because it can get bonked, it can get bashed, it can get hacked, it can get slashed, it can have, a Kage level opponent could just smack into it, and it's just going to keep growing more heads. So that one, I would say, just due to how it physically works, the dog one would actually be immortal. In terms of the bird, I don't know on that one. I would need citation on that one.
Because someone who summons them does not appear again. And then Nagato just sort of pushes it off of his body. The last time Itachi uses it,
something that everyone,
technically, this is tied to Sasuke a little bit.
It's just fire with extra passives.
Think of it that way. Because Kabuto says the greatest offense can also be used as the greatest defense.
Okay.
Which obviously would be talking about Itachi's Amaterasu, since he shouldn't know that Sasuke has Amaterasu at this point. They also use it on Kidomaru's webs, but the webs are shown rebuilt in the next panel, so I don't really get what it was used for there. But let's just quickly wrap up this section. I've come up with something called a useful counter.
Okay.
And Itachi's Amaterasu on the useful counter gets a 3.5 out of 5. It was like 16 clearly minutes. Useful in helping escape from Jiraiya. Clearly useful for what he needed to do in the fight with Sasuke. Was not useful in taking down Obito or keeping him away from Sasuke. Was useful in getting rid of the animal path summons. and I gave it half a point for clearing the cave with it, since Sasuke low-key was implied by Kabuto that Itachi should be able to do that as well. So he gets a 3.5 out of 5 since he used it a total of 5 times when they shot it against Kidomaru's webs. But let's move on to Sasuke's uses of the Amaterasu. Now, Sasuke uses this a lot, and I don't have the time to sit here and go through all 20 times that he uses the jutsu.
No.
So I'm going to basically rapid fire these off and then give context to the ones that were actually useful.
So Amaterasu does have channel time, or it does have travel time. It's not hit scan. Like if Sasuke's aiming at B, right, it's not hitting B. I mean, it's really quick. It's still possible to dodge the Amaterasu if you're like, you know, like the Raikage. So if it comes up that it missed the Raikage, it's literally because we're fighting the S tier shinobi. Like if you're fighting Darui, if you're fighting any Jonin in part 1, if you're fighting anyone on the average of that bell curve in Naruto, Amaterasu is A tier, if not S tier, depending on the matchup, right? Like if you're fighting Biju, if you're fighting Hashirama, if you're fighting Madara, like, yeah, it's gonna feel like it's useless, but at the very least, it's a techie ability. It still has use in the fight. First time we see Sasuke
use Amaterasu is when he used it to hit B. I'm going to save my actual opinion for this until the useful counter section of the video so I can explain it a bit more. There is a bit of a hype statement after this when Sasuke is recovering, where he thinks that he has the powers to take down Konoha now after awakening Amaterasu. He uses it on Raikage
just a bold,
which
just
he
a bold
misses
claim
one
by him.
and it hits a samurai. He tries to stop A with the shield of it, fails there.
Yeah.
And then he fails again because A was going to just dive on top of him, even with the Amaterasu spikes on the Susanoo.
Arguably, he's misusing
it. He uses it on Gaara and gets it blocked 3 different times.
Gaara's S tier. Gaara's Kage level.
And gets one of his Sharingan down at least.
He still killed Danzo.
It seemed like he was going
that was
to
still
use
a win,
Kakashi
a W
here, but didn't.
He rounded Whiteside there.
He burned a lot of Zetsu after obtaining EMS.
He still ganked.
I went over this.
He still ganked an entire platoon of Zetsu. Like, I get where he's going. I get where 6 is going here. I totally get it. I do have disagreements because contextually in the statements, it's not that it's useless. It's doing its job. Like, you're fighting the S tier of the universe. Like, you can't take that in a vacuum. You have to understand. Like, if you're fighting the Raikage, it's not like you're fighting Kakashi from part 1, right? Amaterasu would 100% work in Kakashi from part 1. Kakashi in part 1 was on the higher end of the bell curve, like starting to get the higher end of that bell curve, but not quite there. Like, A is like top 10% of that bell curve.
Excuse already, but where Kabuto calls it the greatest offensive jutsu or whatever.
I control iron knife. Your friend someone who doesn't care about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Already went over. That brings us to Sasuke on the battlefield, and he uses it a lot here.
That was a last-ditch effort by Sasuke to not get ganked.
He's standing beside Naruto. That one was effective. On the Ten Tails itself with Naruto's Rasen,
he's going to talk about it removing the skin from itself.
This is kind of special since Sasuke claims to be able to burn the entire Ten Tails, and there may be some merit to his claim since it does scream out in pain a bit. However, the Ten Tails just globs a piece of itself off
on his arm. Damn,
so
that's a neat statement.
Really
It's funny because one of my mains is Danzo in Storm 4.
Stops it with the rods he put in Obito's arm. He uses it again on Jubito when
Okay, hold the F up. The rods work because they're specifically 6-path chakra rods. We know for a fact that is going to work. You cannot dismiss that fact. They are 6-paths chakra rods. They are literally made with 6-path jutsu, yin and yang, right? The combination of those in physical form, right? The immaterial made material. That is a completely valid counter to literally anything in verse, especially in late Shippuden.
Running at him, but Jubito just blocks it and calls Sasuke dumb.
Jubito literally
in time. It is just to be noted, though, this might have just been for setup, so you don't have to count it against Sasuke if you don't want to, but yeah, there is that. He then uses it again in the next scene to combine with Naruto's Rasen.
It's not that it's useful, it's doing its job. This was them testing what would work and what didn't.
He uses it again on Madara after he's revived, but Madara just takes his clothes off, which is actually the biggest L for Amaterasu I came across while doing this video.
Amaterasu
has long hair that goes completely down his back.
Oh my god.
Amaterasu lights his entire back up, but Madara just takes his clothes off, and it gave him complete immunity.
Madara is a plot point.
It's actually insane.
I hate that I have to dismiss him as such, but he is a plot point. I will get to that later.
On him, Madara just says that Sasuke is just a brat that just doesn't come near his level.
Because it's true.
I will be fair here, and I'll mention the possibility that
Madara's SS tier
absorbed the Amaterasu here. Since even though he doesn't have his Rinnegan, we see he still has the ability to...
Because he doesn't have his Rinnegan, but he has the ability to fucking summon the Geto Mazo. He clearly has the ability to use fucking Susanoo inside of a sand mausoleum. Like, Deus Ex Madara actually makes me upset. Like, actually makes me, like irrationally angry. Madara is in fact a plot point. He ceases to be a character and becomes a plot point. Which, you know, the Borg from Star Trek, right? The Borg are a plot point. They are not made to be overcome. That is a perfect use of that. You're not made to overcome the Borg, therefore the Borg are a plot point, and you deal with them a different way, right? Madara is set up as a character, and Madara ceases to become a character because every single time Deus Ex Machina, right? Deus Ex Madara, as I call it, the you know, pun on Deus Ex Machina, comes into play. Oh, Edo Tensei Kai got released. Edo Tensei got released, right? Oh, Madara is about to, you know, get out of his Edo Tensei body, and he's just like, oh, by the way, I completely knew about this whole thing. Tell the Jutsu caster not to fuck with Kinjutsu. Edo Tensei Kai. Madara, congrats, now I'm alive and an immortal zombie with infinite chakra. Madara literally loses his eyesight. Oh, by the way, I could just whip out Susanoo. Deus Ex Madara actually makes me like irrationally angry, especially when people use him in context of like trying to scale certain things. Like, yes, no, there are in fact three different versions. There are three arcs in Naruto, if you will. One is part 1. Then you get to Shippuden, which is up to the pain fight, which is another kind of like power scaling. And then you have Kage Summit after pain fight to the end of the series, which is more Dragon Ball Z-ish. That is the 3 power tiers of Naruto as it stands. Guy should have got that W 100%. Guy earned that W. It was Deus Ex Madara for plot convenience because he's a plot point that kept him alive. Put that into perspective in my citations.
To absorb chakra through his skin when he takes it from Hashirama, and then a little bit later when he does it to a random shinobi with his QB chakra.
I can't take Madara seriously. I can't.
On his skin here for
this
at least
isn't shade at 6. I just can't take Madara
Sasuke
seriously.
Uses it on Kage after this, but to be fair, it doesn't work here either.
Power scaling should have stopped
his
at
next use is successful though, saving him and Naruto from Kaguya's
Pain should have been S tier.
The anime has Sasuke use Amaterasu on base Naruto and his clones, but this isn't cool. There in the manga, although it was successful for
that
Sasuke
fight was
in the anime,
beautiful.
You know, getting rid of the clones. Using it on base Naruto, though, was completely unsuccessful as he literally just globbed it off with Kurama Chakra.
Bro!
His last use of this in Naruto Part 2 or Naruto Shippuden is him powering his Chidori with it in the final clash with Naruto. But seeing as he's meant to kill Naruto here,
it is meant as a last ditch. Something's gonna get you. Is how that works.
The Chidori, I'm only giving this a 0.25.
It's Deus Ex Madara is the only way I can explain it.
And now we're in the final stretch here. The last 2 times Sasuke uses Amaterasu or in Boruto, which is when he's fighting Jigen, which Jigen just absorbs it and says it won't work on him.
Do not talk to me of the plot armor that is Jigen. Do not.
And then when he's fighting Momoshiki possessing Boruto's body, to which he just uses a shadow clone to completely...
Okay, so literally SS tier opponents, chat.
Our useful counter is going to be a lot higher on Sasuke.
Guys, like, the longsword is not effective against an ICBM. Who would have thought? Like, the longsword's there, it can kind of do things, but man, that ICBM is kind of spicy, right? Literally what we're comparing at this point. Once again, 6, love your content. This is not shade at you. This is shade at the story and just 22 versus 2 gauge. Like, okay, sure, the 22 could do things, but the 2 gauge is still a 2 gauge. That's the level of clearly a difference of skill.
Since he uses the jutsu so much, a total of 20 times. Out of all 20, he gets a 6.25 out of 20. And if we put this down to the same scale,
drone strikes versus Transformer, trench gun versus 1.56
out of 5
Predator drone. Which one's gonna win?
Virtually useless. I give him a
somehow Madara
B example, since it did get them out of the line of fire of B, but it failed at actually capturing him, and B had already substituted, so you could sort of
that was
say
smart
he,
on
like,
B's point, though.
forfeited
Like, that
the
was
fight,
really
but it still
smart on
doesn't
B's
count,
part.
since Sasuke's intended use of it was to capture B. I also gave him a 0.25 in the Naruto Chidori of Amaterasu Rasengan clash. Also, if you give Sasuke the use of Amaterasu in the anime,
somehow still Madara
goes up to a whopping 1.7 out of 5.
For those of you on the React channel who you might not see, like, Chad is trying to discuss just wacky situations which Madara would lose. Like, oh yeah, Madara versus Nuke. Somehow still Madara. Because don't you know it, Deus Ex Madara is going to come up with some fucking hand sign bullshit and be like, ah, you fool, I can just remake atoms on a whim. Fuck off, Madara.
I give him a 0.5 since it only got rid of the clones and the actual Naruto brushed it off.
Madara versus Madara. Probably Madara.
You can see what people get at when they say the Amaterasu gets extremely hyped up, but then it seems like it's completely useless. The Amaterasu never actually kills anyone. I didn't even mention that in the video. It never actually kills anyone. It gets on this one samurai
so many Zetsus.
at the 5 Kage
How many
summit,
Zetsu did it kill?
And then later on, the samurai is still just burning, and Tamari uses wind style to just take all of his clothes off. To be fair to Sasuke, though, he does
really smooth on
cripple the
Conqueror's part.
Raikage, and something I didn't mention about Itachi, because it only happens in the anime, and I was mostly going off of the manga for the entire video, is that he does burn Yagura with it.
Yeah,
greatly.
he not
But
cooking
that's
shit.
pretty much all for the video.
I feel that.
If you like the video, obviously leave a like on it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and have a nice day.
Okay, so I actually have a quick thing on Madara, which is actually beautiful poetic justice. So I play the Naruto CCG, and there's a couple Madara copies. This is actually my favorite one. I actually really love the super rare. This Obito is actually really hot. That being said, this Madara, if you play TCGs and know how wording works, this is going to be hilarious when I point this out. So this was the last set that Bandai ever released, set 28, Naruto Storm 3. And his name is Madara Uchiha, as they always are. They use the English naming convention, right? Remove one Uchiha Madara ninja card. This is a ninja card, right? In any player's discard from the game and apply effect. Chat, without an errata, you can't make this work. There is no card called Uchiha Madara in the game. Bandai did Madara dirty. I feel like it's a nerdy own, but god damn it, it was an own all the same. Oh my god, yeah, if you play CCGs, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.